This is the testimony of the two witnesses, the wedding and the bride. On mainstream media on the 27th of July 2022. You need to listen very carefully. This is beyond belief. It's so far beyond belief that it'll blow the average mind away completely. Most people will reject this because of their mentality, trapped in a personality and no spirituality and no faith. Most people don't have faith, and that's the truth. They don't have faith. They believe their own voices in their own mind that comes to their own conclusion with reasoning, and reasoning is the agent of nefarious, all by design in the mind. People only believe in their own truth, manifest their own truth and come to their own conclusion with reasoning, and they can only use 7 to 15% of their brain, the whole world. Some can master their mind, use 100%. We get discredited the most, stones thrown at us, and avoided the most. But we can master our mind and use 100% of our brain, and the top scholars in the world can only use 15%. We have mental telepathy, ESP, remote view, telekinesis, levitation, spoon bending, clock winding, folding space and time with deja vu to predict the future, prevent what's going to happen. I want to show you something, guys. This book here is right here in this link in this post. Okay, you'll find the 10 most powerful videos on earth and the testimony of the 212 phenomenon. And I suggest that you find out who I am and look at the mark on earth I've left here, okay, in my real life. And don't judge me on one video on your ridiculous, inverted, self-centered mentality, because you don't know me. And 90% of you out there, you watch a video for 5 minutes and then you think you know me because you're mentally insane. You judge mentally and psychologically and not spiritually at all. You don't even know what you're doing. The way you criticize people, the way you run people down, the way you belittle people, and the way you suffer the human conditioning, and 98.7% of the population involve this unreliability in their DNA aura. They don't have any spirituality. They only have mentality. They have amnesia, trapped in a reincarnation trap, and don't even know. When they can only 7 to 15% of their brain, they're acting for someone else with a voice of mind that tells them to do that, been declared ultimately designed for extinction. That's why 77% of all witness children are born with chronic diseases, because it's hereditary gene defects when they live in denial. And these are facts. They have 600 to 6,000 defective genes in every single Westerner in 98.7% of the population who all live in denial about it. They've been stripped from their biological genes to use their sixth sense and their natural gated motor skills for the 6th time in the 6th mass extinction, going into extinction. And they don't believe in it. Animals are going around circles all over the earth, birds are falling out the sky worldwide, and fish going around the oceans. Magnetic fields are changing worldwide. 38 to 98% nutritional values collapsing in our fauna. Alpha beta bacteria collapse between 50 and 100% of every human being on earth, with DNA studies done, and DNA doesn't lie. But everybody depends on it in a delusional state because they can't handle the truth, they can't face it, and they can't deal with it. They live in denial, declared in 2003, a species in denial who lives in a 5-sense world in body and face expression, with their 2 eyes thinking they're the windows of their soul, when their 3rd eye is dimensional thinking with remote viewing and deja vu to predict the future, with the 6th sense with a picture that tells you 1,000 words with dimensional thinking. They cannot use it. They think they can, but they lie to themselves, literally. But they can't use their natural selection, their natural organic motor skills, because they are your natural organic motor skills. And when you can't use them, it means you have amnesia. You can't use 85 to 93% of your brain. You cannot use 27 biofield senses out of 32 senses because you're trapped in 5-sense mentality with artificial intelligence, with atheism, on reverse psychology engineering, with artificial intelligence and evolution mutation, and you mutate into the 23rd seed, the 23rd chromosome. And if you look at cellular study research, your 24th chromosome is in dormancy in 98.7% of the population, but not in 1.3%. They're clockwise with their aura and their DNA without mental disorders and defects. But 98.7% of the human population, their body cells go in corruption illusion during the daytime and can only repair at nighttime. Only 1.3% can repair 24 hours a day. And some of those people can mastermind to use 100% of all their supernatural power and superhuman abilities. Some people can levitate a 1-ton stone. A Westerner couldn't levitate a thimble if they tried. In 1992, in Ipswich Hospital, with 7 peer reports and CCTV, a woman flatlined with a drug overdose named Kirsty Ashton went into Ipswich Hospital in 1992 and took a major drug overdose enough to kill 50 people. She was narcaned and brought into Ipswich Hospital in emergency, where they were pumping her stomach frantically, but they gave her 0% chance of living. They didn't think she was going to make it, but they worked on her frantically trying to save her life. On CCTV with 7 doctors and nurses, she flatlined the second time. When she flatlined, her body lifted 8 inches off the bed from one end to the other, like a massive electrical shock. The doctors and nurses flew backwards. They were blown away, but they kept pumping her stomach frantically because it was still a very dramatic emergency and fighting for her life. So they kept pumping her stomach. This didn't happen once or twice, it happened 3 times. Each time her body lifted up higher, which means there was more power distributing into her body with a divine intervention with each hit. You can see it on CCTV. When they saw this, it was the first time in human history they had ever seen a miracle like this with 7 peer reports. They were in shock. Kirsty Ashley in 2003 wrote the most powerful poem in 2003, The One and Only. Went #1 worldwide for 8 months. It's an extremely powerful poem that went #1 worldwide for 8 months. No other poem since 1992 has been #1 for 8 months to this very day. It still is the most powerful poem written on Amateur's website because it's the biggest website. The professional website is only a little website, but the Amateur's one is massive. So there's a lot more competition because she's not a professional poet. She's an amateur. But it then went #1 worldwide for 8 months and got a lot of attention. In 2012, I went through a strange phenomenon, one you can't really explain. A powerful video here in this post, the testimony of the 212 phenomenon. I advise you pay attention to this video. And the 10 videos is a completion, 1 to 10, the book of Numbers, for a reason. You need to understand who I am, why I'm here, and the mark on earth that I've left here with more than 50 meters of documents you can read about me, with a 34-year study by the biggest think tank in the world, and DNA study for 16 years. I'm primordial being #1 worldwide in every study done. That's not my fault. I am not in control of this. I have nothing to do with this. I have an outside influence that controls all my reality. I am not responsible for this. I'm only a human experience with a personality, with mentality. But the celestial primordial being that controls my vessel has the power beyond anything else in the world you've ever seen. The poem, they interviewed her. She's not the only one. I made many videos about this. My brother died in the Kempsey bus accident. He flatlined, and 20 people died on his bus, including his wife. A miracle written on the front page of the paper by Dr. Wright and Queensland Mental Health Board. They said he said goodbye to 19 people that died in that bus, and every name confirmed, and he didn't know any of them and couldn't remember the accident. For 10 days, after being in a coma for 3.5 weeks and flatlining, and then going into ward next door critically injured. And they were keeping an eye on him, and they were there in many of these events. And Kathy, in the front page of the paper, in a miracle written by Dr. Wright, this is what Kathy said, his wife. She was the last one that came to say goodbye to him. She said the driver went in the abyss, right? She was the only one that made it, and the others were lost, getting one more final chance. They have amnesia, trapped in a reincarnation trap. They didn't go to heaven or hell. They didn't go in the abyss because she said the driver went in the abyss, and she was the only one that made it. God developed the most powerful confirmation, the biggest road accident that stopped Australia, with one of the top surgeons in the whole world that changed his own ward in the PA hospital, with one of the biggest miracles ever recorded on earth. My brother didn't talk to me for 27 years. We lost the relationship and were really close. The reason why he said 27 years later was because when he flatlined, he went to that beautiful place and he didn't want to come back. He said it was so beautiful. He felt love 10 times more powerful than anything he felt in his life. He got a massive clarification and he didn't want to come back. He saw the love of his life, wife Kathy, and Kathy sent him back. And he was told that he had to come back because of me. So he didn't talk to me for 27 years and blame me. He didn't talk to me for 27 years and we lost the relationship and he blamed me for 27 years and I didn't even know. I had no idea. I got a shock of my life when he told me this. My mother, I told my mother that the worst moment in her life in 1945 in World War II, when I was 5 years old. She told me I was dreaming and crazy. I said, Mum, where were we? What happened? I was scared. I was having nightmares about a moment where I'm sitting in arms in a cellar with bombs outside. And I said, Mum, we were scared and there's bombs outside. Where were we? What happened? And she said to me, I'm crazy. I'm having a dream. Stop it. But I knew there was something wrong about this moment. But I didn't know what. I was just a child who was innocent. She called me a freak of nature. And I have these kind of abilities with deja vu to go in a time where time stands still and preserves into the past, into the future. And people think I'm a freak of nature because I can do these things. And my mum freaked out and called me a freak of nature. And my parents rejected me and thought it was a freak of nature, didn't know how to take me. I became the black sheep. And I had a lot of problems at school with this as well and got picked on all the time. But reality is this, okay? I became the biggest mastermind in the underground world, okay? And it's not by coincidence. It's by faith. I was put through a certain path for a reason without realizing it. We all have amnesia and can only 7 to 15% of our brain, which means we're actors for someone else with a voice in mind that says they do that. And we don't even know. But I was put through a certain path to follow my instincts and to think instinctively and to think outside the mind, because I was born that way. I didn't get programmed into the mind, into a personality. I always follow my instincts to think instinctively. Like they say in the movie documentary, right, with Keanu Reeves, The Matrix. Okay, I could respond 7 times faster. They had direction microphones on me, I had remote viewing and deja vu to predict the future and prevent what's going to happen, and they blew their mind away when they realised the abilities that I had. I stamped an Indian number in such a way the X-ray machine 6 years later could not detect it, which means I could see deja vu into the future and prevent what's going to happen. I designed laboratory glass that no scientist thought of that took a 40-hour process down to 3.5 hours in the same method. Going into the future, watching glass that was never developed, and come back to the past and use it today. And people don't believe in it. Well, have you got a better explanation? Because that's the explanation by the biggest think tank in the world. That's their explanation. They say I've godlike power in the biggest mental health research, okay, and the biggest DNA study done, and the biggest think tank in the Star Chamber Inquiry on the Gatekeeper Report. I'm the gatekeeper of godlike power with the sixth sense that has all these abilities that blows their mind away on 7 peer reports, on 7 different documents, in 7 different investigations by the biggest think tank in the world. And I can do things that no one else can. I'm on the front page of papers King Vice in 1992 when I brought someone back to life because Kirsty wrote the poem in 2003 and said that I brought her back to life and I had the divine power. This is her story, not mine. So she writes a poem that I'm the only one of a kind, the only one, the one and only. And it goes #1 worldwide because it's that powerful. It freaked me out, to be honest, because I had no idea. I was not responsible. I didn't know this. I first found this out on the 26th of February 2016 in a meeting. When I died in 2012 and went through a strange phenomenon, I went through a transformation in a way I can't explain, but I was possessed by an outside influence on my reality, right? And took my body and walked away and pushed me out of my vessel. And I watched my body walk away like a body snatch, Morris. And it scared the living shit out of me. Nothing in the world had prepared me for anything like this. I got possessed by a voice from another dimension, and the voice said, I'm going to die, I'm going to die, I'm going to die. And next thing, I'm pushed out of my vessel and it starts walking off. My own vessel walks away and walks across the lawn, up the road, and I'm watching myself outside my body, and nothing in the world prepared me for anything like this. It went on for about 5 or 6 minutes, and then I dropped dead. And my friends that was there with me said they had chills up and down their spine and called O emergency very fast. They knew something demonic was going on, is what they said, and they couldn't work it out, but they knew I had no control of my vessel and I couldn't respond at all. And it freaked them out, and they called O very fast. I dropped down. I watched 3 of them, my friends, hover around my body, and I heard them say, he's dead. I'm thinking, no, I'm not. I'm here. I'm dead. I'm dead. Am I really dead? Am I really dead? So now that I'm in this moment, I kind of get the story about my brother, about the others coming back to say goodbye to him, because I'm here in Purgatory myself, in the middle. I didn't go in the abyss. I didn't go to heaven. And I flatlined at 18 years old. And I remember something with a drug overdose at 18. I remember I went to the abyss and I came back. When I flatlined with a drug overdose, I was also in Ipswich Hospital. They brought me back to life, right? Back in 1979. And when I had a drug overdose, I walked around like a zombie for a week. Made many videos about this. You see, when I was a child, the boogeyman, the monster in the bed, right? I make a lot of videos about this. Some kids can see a shadow, an angelic being. And I saw the boogeyman. He came right down and stared into my face. When my parents came in and said, it's just a dream, go back to sleep, he went straight over the top of them. Like you see in that movie, in the kid, in the restaurant with the shadow, the boogeyman's got control of everyone except for the kid. Like the Green Mile, you see the person that represents Christ in raggedy clothes, always wrapped up in chains, and accused what Westerners are guilty for? Well, he was a Green Mile. He's the real Christ in the real image. He has the holy breath of life, and he pulls Nefarious, the boogeyman, right out of Tom Hanks. And Tom Hanks is the best person in that movie because the whole world's possessed by the Nefarious, right? By molar golems, delusional parasitosis. And that's the boogeyman, the monster under the bed. It's a known fact. That's why parents lie to you and say it's just a dream, go back to sleep, because you go to school to be intelligent, used by voice in the mind, so they can think critically in their mind with consciousness. And consciousness in mental process and illusion imagination set up by the Rockefellers into the WF conscious singularity. And that's what the world's trapped into, their consciousness, a mental event, and no spirituality, only mentality. In their IQ behavior with artificial talents, and they haven't got any spirituality because they don't have mental telepathy, and people, moyu, telekinesis, levitation, spin bending, clock winding, folding space and time with deja vu, to use the sixth sense to prevent what's going to happen, right, to see into the future and prevent what's going to happen. You know, Bruce Lee can mastermind by 24 and 512, be back karate blindfolded, and he could block every punch 7 times faster than anyone can think, where deja vu could predict the future and prevent what's going to happen. He was a mastermind, and I'm a mastermind with the same abilities on every document, and people don't believe in it. Well, they don't have their genetic memory, do they? And their ancestor tools. So they wouldn't have a clue with amnesia, would they? They've been throwing stones at me my whole life. Yet I come out on top in every study done. And every person been throwing stones at me my whole life and saying I'm crazy, saying I'm a lunatic, I'm an idiot. And that's every Western mentality trapped in their reptilian mentality. Because that's Westerners for you with artificial intelligence, with their body cells going corruption during the daytime, and they got no aura. They got no spirituality. They only got psychological mentality and come to their own conclusion with reasoning, and they're only actors. And I know that for a fact because I was an actor myself. I was an actor to 2012, like everybody else is. And then I died. I literally died that day. Kim died and never came back. The personality that I was, in the mentality that I was living in myself, in my own personality that didn't exist. And I learned that the hard way. We're going through a transformation I couldn't understand in a way I can't explain to you in a way you don't understand, because it's an outside influence, like you see in the movie Livers, with a drug that we developed called Red Manna, the crisis and most used, that brings you back to your primal state, to use 100% of your brain. And we developed that drug in the testing centre, in the Star Chamber Inquiry, on every single testing centre across Australia. I brought people back in the primal state that caused the human conditioning, the cure of the human conditioning with Bill Breeden by Jeremy Givers, and the most powerful document on earth, held by 16,000 top scholars in the world, the holy grail of life. We know how to go back in the primal scales, right, and use our sacred secretion to conduct with our natural abilities to do every single thing that Christ can and more, because I am solid living evidence. I can do everything Christ can and more, with the most powerful confirmation on earth and the most powerful poem written in 2003, the one and only. And I am the one and only on every study done. How do you think it feels like to be with me when you're not in charge of this, and you're not in control of yourself or your own vessel, and you go through something like this and you're possessed by an outside influence and another celestial primordial being that takes over your vessel, and then you go for a transformation with genetic memory and start to remember things from 5,500 years ago, and you realize through this genetic process you're sitting down and told by top bowlers that you're the one of a kind in a 34-year study done. Then you go back, right, and you're being unlawfully deported, right, from Australia to Denmark. Okay, you're being unlawfully deported. You go back to Perth Hospital, from Perth Hospital back to Perth Detention Centre after a 6.5-hour meeting with top scholars and think tanks in the world in a top secret meeting. They knew what was going on. And you know, you have to listen to all my videos with what I went through. In the most corrupt cases in Australian history, by Chief Justice Jersey in every university in Australia. The most corrupt cases in Australian history put in by Chief Justice Jersey, the top judge on the Parliamentary Crime and Misconduct bench. He ordered Peter Dutton to step down in 2010 for the most corrupt cases in history. Then he was removed. Tony Abbott, the Prime Minister, said it does a many urine test on government's authorities and defence force and government workers and found 87% was positive to meth. Methamphetamine, 1/3 graphene oxide, iodine crystal, with a barcode system in amphetamines, methamphetamine and ADS medication. And 80% of people on this drug worldwide. He exposed that worldwide in mainstream media. It's an outside influence with an electronic magnetic device with a mind control. We identified that in 1999 when we found a true serum that brought people back in primal state. And we exposed that in 1999 worldwide. Our world is crazy and have an outside influence reality, and we've been stripped in the sixth sense for the sixth time in the sixth mass extinction. That was worldwide by the IPP science reports in 1999, and the same biologist wrote the book Freedom, the Cure of the Human Conditioning, because I went in search for the cure of the human conditioning to save humanity. And that's to go back in the primal motor skills with their sixth sense to think outside the mind, with their natural selection of life and natural order in life, back in their spirituality, back in their primal state, in DNA, the book of life. Okay, because we're in the sixth mass extinction strip in the sixth sense for the sixth time with book Revelation 27 unfolding. And people so mentally insane, they're trapped inside the mind, can only 7 to 10% of the brain, and the top scholars can only use 15%. We can use 100%. A big, massive difference you can see in the movie Limitless. We developed the drug Red Manna that made you limitless. To use 100% of your brain with the vortex of information with an outside influence in reality. And you see that in the movie Limitless. He writes a book overnight that's brilliant. He goes down to Wall Street and makes millions of dollars. And they don't want you to have that ability. They want you to be trapped inside your mind so you do not know what you do. And you're not alive. Because you're not alive till you cross over. Believe me, you're high as a kite and you're so alive, you've never been so alive before in your life. 10 times more power and divine intervention in your DNA, the book of life. And trust me, it's a powerful inflection point to stick your head through the light in the tunnel outside the cave. Okay? Plato describes it in 15 books. They've been studying for 45 years with Plato and the human condition and why we suffer so much. In every single person in Western civilization, I live in denial at the same time with a guilt factor. It's species in denial. Why would they live in denial when we find freedom of the cure of the human condition that's going to save humanity, so they never suffer again in their life, and they get 100% of their brain to go back in the primal state? They can do things that are so far beyond the mind with so much power and divine intervention. It's magic beyond the mind. To be in the Christ image, to do what Christ can and more, there's a lot more to this than you realize, right? There's a lot more to this. It's like you have a DMT effect, MDMA, meth effect, opiate effect, and boy, you're high as a kite. You're really, really high with the sacred secretion. And your third eye, to see the picture that tells you 1,000 words cannot lie to you, with dimensional thinking, okay? Where you see all the multiple perception, you can unravel every single thing and never be deceived ever again. You can never be deceived ever again. You can never suffer stress, fear, and anxiety, confusion, frustration, illusion ever again. Never suffer in a comfort zone. Never believe in your own truth. Never manifest your own truth. And never come to a conclusion with reason, because now you cross over through a 40-day test and go through a transformation for 3.5 years that I went through myself with genetic memory. And trust me, it's one hell of a ride that you know nothing about. And it's not as easy as you think. It's wild. And that's why Christ was wild and very confrontational, because he knew what the others didn't know. He said, you're trapped inside the mind. You do not know what you do in your mind. You're a dead corpse and dead weight until you cross over. And trust me, I found that out the hard way. And my God, it blew my mind away when I went through the most powerful experience of my life. After going through the most powerful influence that scared the living shit out of me, the worst moment of my life, I go through a transformation for 3.5 years I can't even explain in a way that you really understand, because you've got to go through this yourself. And we cross people over in a 40-day fasting to stop natural selection and go into natural selection and natural order in your DNA. And trust me, it's mind-blowing. It's powerful, so powerful, you have no idea, but you get a confirmation. And that's what counts. You get a powerful divine intervention with a powerful confirmation. And you're saved when you go through the inflection point and you cross over. And then you're in, right? The light at the other end of the tunnel. You stick your head out the cave and you feel it and you see it. And you get a massive clarification. And you can't get it wrong. Trust me, you can't get it wrong. When you go through this, you stick your head out the cave like Plato describes in 15 books. But believe me, most people won't do it because they're trapped in a comfort zone. No matter who they are, where they come from, they don't know what they're doing until they cross over. When they cross over, it's a hell of a powerful inflection point that's so far beyond the mind doesn't understand. And that's the first thing you learn. The mind doesn't understand. And that's the first thing you realize, that the mind controlled you. Right? Your own personality, your own mentality was a trap. It was a mentality trap. You're trapped in your mind and consciousness, an illusion, imagination, and you realize that the voice in your mind that tell you do it, and don't do it, and give you 5 reasons why you shouldn't, when you think critically, it's only a personality. And you discover that the personality controls you, and it's only a personality that will tell you whatever you want to hear in the comfort zone, when you believe in your own truth. And you escape the reincarnation trap like this, and wake up back in your childhood, back in your innocence, back in your primal state, totally selfless. And you cross over into your selflessness, and you see yourself in a way you never have. And then you start to break free and go through a transformation, but you're saved. You're crossed over. You've gone through the rebirth, and it's like starting all over again. You have your genetic memory, right, that comes to you out of the blue, but you have your normal memory, but you change. Like you go through a death experience and you never become the same person again. And you realize if you make videos before and after, or listen to yourself, you alter so much, it's unbelievable. You go into a natural selection, and that natural selection alters you in ways you do not understand. You go for a transformation, and you use the book Freedom to take you through a rabbit hole, held by 16,000 top scholars more, the Holy Grail of Life. And we're not breathing, the Holy Breath of Life, to recreate the sacred secretion. You won an Nobel Prize without a credential. These two are the most critical tools if you fast for 40 days, right, and change your selections, and go into yourself and get off the screens and isolate yourself. Mind your own business. Okay, take zinc, iron, magnesium, and only drink water. Okay, only drink water. Select salt in water as well. Okay, take zinc, iron, magnesium, by CDB as well. and don't eat for 40 days. Fasten, isolate, get off screens, right? Get into meditation with Winoff, who's won a Nobel Prize to recreate the second reason to conduct with. And you'll feel in your aura, you'll feel in your body cells. You go through a transformation with genetic memory, and you reset your biological clock in your central nervous system. And that changes your whole structure genetically. When you go into this deep meditation, you go in the sixth sense. You close your eyes and go through your sixth sense. And you see the pictures that tells you 1,000 words, and things come to you out of the blue. And you can feel the outside influence on your reality. With the most powerful divine inspiration, you can feel the love. You can feel the high. And when you go into this deep, go deeper and deeper, go deeper in the oxygen and go deeper in the breathing. Listen to book Freedom by Jim McGivers, especially SA 64. Listen to it on audio. The book Freedom by Jim McGivers. Go deep into this and you alter so much, you have no idea, and you get a powerful confirmation within about 40 days. Sometimes it'll take a few more days, but you will get there if you push the meditation into your sixth sense and you start to create a quantum relationship, a quantum mechanic relationship, right? You use loyalty, honor, respect, morals, inspiration, and encouragement. Nothing else. Get out of your mind with judgmental and competitive behavior. Get out of mentality. Just use the quantum mechanics of a relationship. That's your primordial state. To think instinctively and think outside the mind. And things comes automatically. With an outside influence you see in the movie Limitless. With an outside influence in reality that changes the circumstances. Let it come to you. Let it come to you. Create the relationship. And in tune to codependent power, a two-way street. Codependent relationship is a two-way street. You got to give to take. And what you give, you get in return tenfold. We're 10 times more powerful in your reality, right? We're 10 times more power in a placebo effect with faith beyond the mind. So far beyond the mind, you have no idea. I was deliberately put through this path and went through this transformation. On the 27th of February 2016, on my grandson's birthday, an orbit light came to me in Perth Detention Centre, and massive miracles unfolded that day. I wrote 3 official documents being unlawfully deported. And on those documents I said, if I get unlawfully deported, God will send me through the toughest spaceship conditions in the world in a glitch. So I get unlawfully deported and write 3 official letters to border security, governments, and immigration. And so I'm being unlawfully deported. So I go through and get unlawfully deported and write the official documents, as I'm instructed to do. I get sent to Denmark with a 6-page warning letter and a 2-hour interview. I can't travel anywhere on facial recognition. I go back through 6 international airports and land back in Brisbane on the 27th of January, 1990, exactly 27 years from the day that Kathy told Yan, okay, that she's the only one that made it and the others were lost and getting one more final chance. That was the 27th of January, 1990. So my son's birthday is the second event, both of them born on the 27th, so am I. On the 27th September 1960, to commemorate the King of all Kings and Scars for Justice. You see, 27 is always better than life, book Revelation 27. And we were all born the 27th, and God created the most powerful confirmation on my grandson's birthday and my son's birthday like this. I write the official documents of my grandson's birthday with a divine intervention, a powerful one, fully recorded. And then I get deported and come back through 6 events and land back 11 months later on the 27th of January 2017. Okay, I'm not responsible for this. I go home to see my brother and my mother that very day. That day I go through International Airport at Brisbane. He said, why am I coming to Australia for? He said, coming in to look at GTHO Falcon, Ford Falcon muscle cars. I love them. He said, I own a red GTHO Mustang. I'm a Ford man too. We have a great conversation. I go home to see my mum and my brother, and I'm instructed by the father to ask them why my mum hasn't told me about the truth about this dream since 1965, 1966, 50 years later. And to ask my brother why he hasn't spoken to me for 27 years. Then I find out for the first time, 27 years later, from Kathy told Yan, that he was sent back from heaven because of me. And you know what? It was one hell of an inflection point. Then I find out from my mum that I was down in bathtub at 2 years old, and that she was the one sitting in her mum's arms in the cellar in 1945, and it wasn't me. And you know what happened that moment? I got a powerful divine intervention. So did my mother, so did my brother, because they have amnesia. And I saw them wake up like this, and it scared the living shit out of me. and my spinal cord, Jacob's ladder, went into a Neuralink, right, and went into freeze, right, like lightning coming through me, right, with power. And then I remember when my mum told me I was down above for 2 years old, I remember going to another dimension and seeing her in the past and seeing other things in the future that I wasn't allowed to talk about. Now I got a confirmation that that thing was real. For the first time in 2016, I get a confirmation that the moment I tell my mum about, still in here, as if it happened yesterday, was in 1945 in World War II. And it became a confirmation that it was real when my mum told me, and that I wasn't dreaming and I wasn't crazy. When she told me that, it all came to me. Every time I went in there when I died, I realized everything else is real with deja vu when I predict the future and prevent what's going to happen. So the Father says to me, that's a confirmation that you were chosen from the day you were born, on the 27th September 1960. Son, the Holy Spirit, divine light, scales for justice, and King of all kings, metal rat, on your birthday, son. And your son, your grandson, born the 27th for a reason, son. Book Revelation 27, everything's 27. Every declaration will be 27. Son, you're declared in posthumous stage on the 27th September 99 on your birthday. And you found out in 2008 they found your DNA, son, of the cure of the human condition that's going to save humanity. The only one of a kind in the biggest study ever done. That was you, son. You now know that for a fact. You were told by the top scholars in the world. And I sent you through this to know that you were chosen the day you were born with the most powerful confirmation. That's why I took you to this dimension, to see your mum and everything else. So you know it's the truth. Once your mum told you, you know it's the truth. And your brother was sent back from heaven because of you, son. Because 95% of people were lost back in 1990. Today it's over 98%, son. It's a DNA in their aura, and you know that, son. You're the one that made limiters and brought people back from my state, and you know DNA evidence, son. You're the one and only. And that's been declared in every study. You're not in control of this, are you, son? No, I'm not. Not at all. I don't know what's going on. It's blowing my mind away. But God sent me through the facial recognition system on these events, okay? And he puts me through this. And I blow up my mind in such a way, it opens up like a can of worms, and all my genetic memory comes back about everything, okay? And he says to me, you're the son of Christ, son of David, son of Abraham, because you have that genetic process, son. You teach the resurrection of humanity, and you do it exactly the same way you did, right, when you did it in 40 days yourself. You went through the infliction point of being dead, son, and I'll put you through a transformation for 3.5 years, the same way I put the apostles through, okay, the disciples, so they could do what I can and more in 3.5 years. So they too could do what I can, son. And you're the only one in the world that knows that, son, because I put you through that path with your own experience, son, when you were possessed and you died, okay, Kim died, and you became your primordial being and took charge of your vessel. And now you start going from genetic memory and a transformation in genetic memory with the ancestors tools to remember who you are, son. And I've designed you in such a way that you're declared to be the last human being born on earth. And it's written in the Bible, you won't know who I am. The Bible says you won't know who I am. I'll come from the cave of prison with a tooth of masses, with fire coming out of my mouth and raggedy clothes, like a thief in a knife in shining armor, with my aura and my sixth sense, with the most powerful confirmation on earth. With the most powerful confirmation on earth ever developed in modern history. As a fact. Think about this for a moment, guys. I'm not responsible for what's going on. I moved this in 1994, which started the Extinction Rebellion, which involves the 16,000 top scholars with the Book of Life, the Holy Grail of Life, the book Freedom by Jimmy gives to cure human condition, to stop the sixth mass extinction, stripping the sixth sense for the sixth time, declared worldwide in 99. Okay, on the 27th September, exactly 28 years from that day, it's the end of the New York climate clock. 7-year countdown put up by the same boulders from 220 to 227. New York climate clock on a 2-minute video on YouTube. The most important number placed in Central Society as we go into massive sixth mass extinction. And we can't prevent it because it's going to happen. And the New York climate clock is displayed to the 27th September, exactly 27 years, exactly 2,000 years from the day that Christ was baptized by John, 27 September 27. You cannot make it up. In the middle of 7, you'll see 2 moons, and you'll see a star in supernova. In the middle of 7, the 7-year lay. I'm told to tell you that this is the last 7 years of the time of deception. And we're going a new timeline of 7-fold wisdom knowledge. And you can see that in the movie Limitless. When you go back into primal state and you cross over back in your primal state, back in your celestial mortal being, you have 7-fold wisdom knowledge. You can do everything Christ can and more. Okay? Like the Matrix documentary, like Limitless, like Madame Web. And you do not know, because you cannot do these things, but I can. I have that ability. I was born with it. I was born with it. And I don't have amnesia anymore. I use my genetic memory to know that we can all do what I can and more, because since 1994, it's proven with DNA studies done. When they found me in 2008, they found a lot of other people from the Star Commission, from the Royal Commission, from the Star Chamber Inquiry, people on drugs in the underground world and coming in and out of prison. They found their DNA, and the last means being unborn on earth that can do everything that Christ can and more. I'm not alone. They went back in the primal state and can use the genetic same process, the same genetic memory. It's a choice you make by following the right footsteps, by going back in your childhood, as Christ tells you, follow my footsteps, and you can do what I can and more. And if you do that and follow those footsteps, you can all do what Christ can do and more. Proven with DNA studies done with the most powerful confirmation ever made on earth. Trust me, I'm the leader forefront of this. I can do it the best, and that's all that matters. Imagine you're going through this and then you're told to write the book that unfolds with evidence. And from 220 onwards, I predict the evidence perfectly, which means it becomes the evidence. The testimony of Reborn is a solid evidence. I cannot make this up. I cannot lie about this. You can see it yourself. Okay? When you look at the Star Chamber Inquiry, there's 7 things that no one's ever done in this world where I predict the future and prevent what's going to happen on their own documents. So just think about this for a moment. Just for a moment, right? I'm not responsible. I'm not in charge of myself. I'm not controlled by a personality or my own mentality with amnesia and trapped in a reincarnation trap because I woke up from it. So I know it's true. And that's why God developed this and put me through this. And that's why he made me, sent my brother back to heaven because of me. Right? With all those people that never crossed over and didn't make it, and getting one more final chance, and my brother was given a final chance as well. The same way the others were. Sent back because he was trapped in his mind too much, into himself, into his mentality and his personality. So he too was sent back for the same reason. And it's developed for me, for that powerful event, for this very reason. Because I know what everybody else doesn't know. I'm the son of Christ, son of David, son of Abraham, with genetic memory, and I can do what Christ can and more. And I have that memory to teach people how to go through this in 40 days and a 3.5-year transformation in their DNA, the book of life. And the only one doing it worldwide. Listen carefully, guys. Imagine this. You move the Extinction Rebellion that starts like this without realizing it, and it turns into the biggest army the world's ever seen, over 250 million, 335, and shut every capital city down, right, in 2019 worldwide. Think about the time traveler stands at every capital city under the new climate clock without a single person there, and the scholars couldn't work it out and took them down. Time travel 227, 2,000 years from Christ was baptized by John. On the new climate clock, he's standing there, and there's no one at Times Square, New York Times Square, and they can't figure it out. Okay? Set up in such a way they put it down because they couldn't work out how you could do that, and stand at every capital city that we shut down, the Extinction Rebellion, to stop the 6 mass extinction from the 6th sense. That's the people going against revelation in real life, and it wasn't everyone on the screen, was it? It wasn't pastors and preaching Christians, neither was it. They didn't stand against revelation. Only the Extinction Rebellion did. They stood against the 6 mass extinction stripped from the 6th sense for the 6th time, and that's spirituality. So they're the only spiritual people that stood up and fought the demons head on and the Antichrist. Then you went in the 7-year lay in 220 with the zombie apocalypse. Then you went far left and far right and conquered, debate and divide with your own family of events and sit on a screen all day to be a judgmental, competitive person and think you're chosen by your forefathers when you're not. You have an outside influence that controls your reality. You act for someone else. With the voice of mind, ultimately design extinction, declared worldwide. And you live in denial in your mind, on social media platform in the 5 sense world, attached to radio waves with principality and power in the air that controls your mentality. Because you're not spirituality. We are. Our aura is clockwise. Yours is anti-clockwise and can only appear at night time. And that's where the truth is. DNA, the book of life. You're following the wrong footsteps. No matter what you say, no matter what you believe in, your pastors, preachers, and teachers and Christians are the same ridiculous mentality. That's why they're all deceived across the whole world, because they're trapped in mentality and not in spirituality. That's why they don't have that ability. They didn't follow the Christ footsteps and went back in their childhood so they could do what Christ can and more. There isn't one pastor, preacher, Christian in the whole world that followed those footsteps anywhere in the world. They all die prematurely from stress-related diseases and keep coming back and reincarnate as a trap. That's a known fact. It's a known fact worldwide. Right? That's why God developed this. 98.7% is anti-clockwise in their DNA. Scholars all over the world, listen to me carefully. I put up a lot of videos lately where people's been working for the church for 30, 40 years and died recently and got sent back the same way. And what are they saying worldwide in 7 videos I put up on my platform? They're all said the same thing. They said when they went there to the time where time stands still like preserves, where everything was perfect and they didn't want to come back, they were sent back with one more opportunity because they were lost and they were into themselves. They're all saying the same thing because they were into themselves and self-centered, right? Trapped in their mentality, in their personality for the same reason. And what are they saying worldwide? They're saying the same thing, that over 98% is going in the abyss. That's what they say. So that matches up everything in DNA, the book of life. No matter what people say, DNA doesn't lie. We know the truth. Only 1.3% of spirituality clockwise. The rest of the night, they have to cross over. They have to go through the rebirth. They have to go through the resurrection. They have to cross over. They have to restore their biological fields because they don't work. They have amnesia. They're trapped inside a mentality in the biggest souls of human history with their spirituality. And in order to cross over, they've got to do this. They've got to go back to natural selection and natural order to use their natural selection with the natural organic medicines because they don't work. Nor does 85 to 93% of the brain because they're inactive for someone else with an outside influence that controls reality that they give consent to and they don't believe in it. Most of them are beyond the point of return. Declared worldwide beyond the point of return. Trapped in mentality. And that's why this is the end date. That's the infliction point of no return, 27 September 27. And it has to be. That's the obvious. It has to be. It's the obvious. Every human being on earth is artificial and unnatural selections. And they don't even know. They have 600 to 6,000 defective genes. They're deformed to the shithouse. And they live in denial. They're deformed worldwide. 600 to 6,000 defective genes and for beta bacteria collapsing the mentality. And they don't believe in it. They're riddled with parasites. They're riddled with delusional parasitosis. And they're riddled with propaganda. And they don't believe in nothing but themselves. They're trapped inside their mind beyond the point of return majority. They cannot use their spirituality because they're trapped in mentality and don't believe in it. So they're species in denial. Declared in 2003 in a 6th mass extinction, going to strip for their 6th sense for the 6th time. And now Hawaiian syndromes worldwide with peer reports calls it a body snatching virus and a zombie apocalypse because you're dead weight. You're just a personality. You're just a mentality. Most of you are narcissists and self-centered creatures who couldn't care less only about yourself and your own opinions. And you're just actors and just a mouthpiece. But you haven't got mental liberty. You haven't got ESP. You haven't got remote viewing. You haven't got deja vu. So you haven't got a clue what you're doing. You can't see the future. You can't prevent what's going to happen. So you can't use your natural selection either. You can't think clockwise. You can only think anti-clockwise. And if you don't believe in that, you're screwed. And that's not negotiable. Never was and never will be. We're trying to do the best to help you, but it's impossible when you're trapped so much into yourself and live in denial. Brain lock denial worldwide. You have brainwashed in 85 to 93% of brain because it doesn't work. You're trapped in the mind with IQ. And IQ only makes you good at what you do, but in fact not intelligent. Declared worldwide. It's artificial intelligence. It's every mutation. It's atheism. It's anti-clockwise. They've got no spirituality in their own primordial state. They don't even have faith in their own biological genes to use their own natural selection in their own DNA. That's how dumb they are. They don't even have faith in themselves. Okay? So scientists and scholars with high IQ and brain deformity, 1 plus 125 IQ is a brain deformity declared worldwide. 125 plus IQ is a brain deformity declared worldwide. And they're chosen like this, with high IQ, with brain deformity, trapped inside the mind without mulligan and shame and pretend to be human, but they're not very good at it. I can guarantee you that. They're not very good at acting because they're only actors. They're not humble species, and they don't use the quantum mechanical relationship, and they can't keep friends together in real life. They've got no codependent relationship with people around them and no soulmate relationship at all. They just pretend they do and live on a screen all day, sitting on a couch all day, consuming all the wrong things and listening to all the wrong information that controls them, with stress, fear and anxiety, confusion, frustration, delusion, paranoia in a comfort zone on the screen all day. Okay? And they do not know what they do because their body cells can corruption in the daytime and can only be at night time. So they're controlled by stress, fear and anxiety and die prematurely no matter what they say. Until they cross over, they're free. And they don't understand freedom and the liberation until they do. They do not know what they're missing out on at all. Imagine going through this and you're the only one and you have no external control. Then you write the book that unfolds believing perfectly. Then it happens, the 7-year lay comes along after you write the book and all your predictions comes to reality. Hitler's plan, as Harari says, right? As Harari says, Hitler's plan, alien intelligence, to take out the natural selection of life and replace with intelligent design. Yet we stand by the natural selection with Jeremy Givers, held by 16,000 scholars and Nobel Prize winners on the same page. But the governments and authorities, and most people searching my platform, is going into unnatural selection, right, with an unnatural ability and unnatural selections. So they're taking away the unnatural selection and replacing it with intelligent design. And most people consume the wrong products and make those decisions without realizing it. As an actor on a screen all day in a 5-6 world, they don't even know. They got caught by the radio waves and principality in the power of the ear that controls them, that they give consent to with molar golems, delusion, parasitosis, riddled with parasites in their minds. They gave consent to and they don't believe in it. Well, they never know until they cross over, okay, and start a natural selection and stop the unnatural selection. And without doing that, they'll never know. And that's why I got put through this powerful path. And I want to tell you something, okay, very powerful, okay? You will see 2 moons in the middle of 7, and you see a supernova in the middle of 7. Daniel 9:27, the middle of 7. Jacob's trouble, last year, my birthday, September 27. I can't make it up. The same day, Jacob's star goes into supernova, and 144,000 orbs of light stars within the stars come from heaven to earth and put the whole world in checkmate. And we have a relationship with this. That's what comes to us when we have the strange phenomenon. When these events happen with the most powerful confirmation on earth, where I go home to my mum. And when I go home to my mum, I get locked up 10 days later by border security, and they confirm that I'm not on one camera anywhere across 6 international airports. But every passenger is. I'm on CCTV outside, and they've got a powerful confirmation from the JP that he owns a Reggie DHO Mustang, and I'm on CCTV outside a minute later, but not on one camera, and there's not a glitch in the system. And it's reported by the border security as the most powerful confirmation by the biggest think tank in the world with the all-seeing eye and the biggest security in the world. The most powerful confirmation that God does exist, with the most powerful confirmation on earth by head of border security that changes the whole pay system. Trust me, he came in with a pastor, with a divine intervention with a pastor, Sarah, from Brisbane Detention Centre in March 2017. He comes walking in by himself with Sarah, and he writes the most powerful document on earth, and they confirmed what I said in the 3 letters, that God would send me through the glitch, send me through every international airport with the toughest facial recognition system and security system in the world. He would do it in a glitch. I'm not on one camera passenger is. I'm on CCTV outside at every event. And they confirmed by the JP owns a Reggie Mustang the same day. And that day was the most powerful confirmation ever made on earth. And that's the day that God sent me back to my mum and my brother the same day to get the most powerful confirmation that no one can lie to me. That I was chosen from the day I was born. And I want you to listen to me carefully. It's not my fault. I'm not in control of this. Here's what happens. Last year, on my date of birth, supernova, Jacob star goes in supernova in the middle of 7. A prophecy unfolds on Daniel 9:27 the same day. 2 powerful prophecies. 4 days later, 2 moons. 4 days later, 2 moons. You can't make it up. And the 2 moons represents 98.7% voltage and reliability in DNA and 1.3% the little moon. You can't make it up. Exactly 28 years later, from the end of the new climate clock, was the declaration of the post-human stage born in Revelation, that you're all going to be deceived in a massive global delusional state, and only the elect will not be deceived. And one person will come with the resurrection man, and you won't know who he is, but you know by the tools, and you know by all the signs, and he'll be on his date of birth. 27 September, the Holy Spirit, divine light, scales for justice, every declaration made, and these two prophecies, Daniel 9:27, and supernova, and post-human states, and my date of birth, and the end of the climate clock is on the same day that Christ was baptized with John, 27 September, 27, exactly 2,000 years later, it's the inflection point of no return, and scholars know that. Kim Clement predicted in 2013, go look at a 2-minute video on YouTube. He predicted 227. The Vatican says 227. Scholars all over the world say 227. And a scholar, and there are also prophets from the streets that I put on this timeline. The old prophet that says, the two witnesses, it will start with a man and woman and it'll finish with a man and woman. The two candlesticks, the two objects, the two witnesses. Lilu, the fifth element, 84. Mary, the pillar of salt. And Christ, 27. Keanu Reeves, resurrection. The two pillars of salt. They know in the movies because they're right. She's the perfect element. She stands for Mother Nature. The Father gives you divine power to command nature. That's the two pillars of salt. That's a divine intervention that you have to command nature. Divine power to command nature. God gives you the power, and the pillar of salt is Mother Nature that provides for you. We're the most powerful influence in your reality. The two pillars of salt. Mary and Christ. You will not know who they are. We came from heaven to earth, me and Marin. Okay, Marin, her mum was abducted. Her mum's got amnesia. She was abducted by a UFO, and Mary popped up. Marin popped up. The same way I did. Okay, we came from heaven to earth. Developed for this very moment without a father. Both of us. I met Marin. Okay, and it's important you understand this. We got married on the 27th of February 2022, but we had to get married for the system. We had to book in the system, right? Because of complicated pension problems. So we booked in the system into town hall and got married and booked in the 27th of July 2022. And we didn't even know, and we had no idea until these events unfolded, and I finished the 10 videos on completion with the supernova and the 3 most powerful prophecies. And I'd already moved the world's biggest army that stopped the whole world and shut the world down, that started the zombie apocalypse, the 7-year lane. And I didn't even know. And it wasn't until then, only a few months ago, only after September, that all this happened, that we realized, oh my God, guess what? So we went back and we realized when we got married that day by the system, we didn't know. We had no idea. Look at the video on this post. Look at this 22-second videos because it's golden. And we didn't know. We didn't know until this moment, until the completion of all 10, until God was finished with the completion with me. He put me through massive events, and it's always later I find out. I never find out before. I always find out later and look back. And I don't even know these things happen because I'm not in control. Me and Marin sat down when all these things happened, and boom, we had a divine intervention, a divine moment where we realized, guess what? You wouldn't dream about this in a million years. You wouldn't dream about this in a million years. But we went into the system to get married on this day. And on this day, Tour de France, the Danish person won in 2022. Okay, on the 24th of July. He was interviewed on the 27th at Town Hall in Denmark, in Times Square. Denmark, Times Square. And we just got married at the hall because we had to, right, by the system. And coincidentally, we walk out right half a minute before they interviewed the winner for Tour de France with 7,000 cameras out the front. And listen, we were stopped for a second and told we had to wait for a while because he was coming out. Then they let us out right in front of us. And we watched videos or news platforms and sports all over the world. We saw it with our own 2 eyes that a lot of those films, we were on there half a minute before he walks out for the interview. So we've seen it with our own two eyes. And we didn't even know. We didn't even click. We just laughed about it. Didn't really let it sink in. It just didn't sink in at all. So in the Bible, you're warned about the wedding and the bride, the two witnesses. It'll start with a man and woman and it'll finish with a woman. The two candlesticks, the two olive trees, the two witnesses. You will see the two witnesses worldwide. We both went through the 212 phenomenon and we both flatlined. That's right. And we both went through a massive transformation for 3.5 years. And it's warned the Bible that'll happen to us. But not like people think with literal behavior and mental behavior. It's all back to front. But we went through this. We flatlined, okay? We went through a transformation. We both did. Man rejected everything, okay? And she can't get on with anyone, okay? She can't go on with anyone. She's living in a cave and she's completely different than everyone else because they're trapped in mentality and she's trapped in a spirituality. She never developed a personality. That's why Marin's so different. She is so different. She's the most innocent person I've ever come across. You know, Nicodemus couldn't work out Mary. They thought she was possessed, right? Because she had boldness unreliability, which means her boldness was unreliable, right? Like the Neuralink, MS disorders, and that's what was wrong with Mary. Mary was not in control of herself, right? But when she turned left, she turned right because the Neuralink sent the wrong message. Marin had the same problem. Think about this for a moment. Because Marin's had massive miracles you would not believe. Where her spinal cord keeled over, she's in a wheelchair beyond the point of return, and we created a miracle. I created a miracle for her that her mum saw and even wrote a post about, and got out of a wheelchair and walked straight and perfect and cured MS disorders beyond anyone's mindset. And it's a known fact. I brought her back to life to walk again, and it's a known fact. Now, Marin came from heaven to earth because her mother was abducted and she had insertions everywhere. And the family's confirmed that. They've confirmed that. She had cuts everywhere with insertions and had amnesia after being abducted. They confirmed that. Marin pops out and it's very different. So I find Marin up here going through this and she watches my platform and she's trapped in the cave, in a long dark cave. No, she's not. Everyone else is trapped in the cave. She was not in the cave. That was the problem, but she felt like she was in the cave. She couldn't communicate with anyone because no one could understand her Neuralink and how things function. They always thought there's something wrong with Marin, and the hospital thinks she needs a team when she doesn't. I am a team. Trust me, I am her complete team. You may not believe that. I do everything for Marin because I understand her in ways no one else can, and she knows that I understand her better than anyone because we're not trapped in mentality, in personalities, and she knows that. And she talked to me like you wouldn't believe. Okay? And I knew she was coming. I was giving a divine moment, a divine intervention, and I knew she was coming. And she came. She came to me. When she came to me, she fainted the first day and dropped as I took away the human condition that was controlling her. Believe it or not, she's made videos about this. She's confirmed that. Listen carefully. We get married on the 27th of February 2022 in our own self, our own soulmate relationship. We don't care about documents, but we were forced into this and had to do this. So we book in this day, we come back out, and you see us on mainstream media worldwide on 7,000 cameras, and you wouldn't dream about it. You were told the two witnesses be mainstream worldwide, and here we are, without us even realizing it. We didn't even know. But coincidentally, look at this video for 22 seconds. A friend of mine, I got him to film, and I don't know why, but we filmed this and we walked out. So look at the camera. You'll see from our perspective, you'll see 7,000 cameras there. You'll see it with your own two eyes. Then you see me walk out with Marin with the envelope, with the red envelope. The wedding and the bride. The wedding and the bride, the two witnesses. And then I start to wave at everyone in the cameras. Okay, you go look at the video, man. Because I didn't even know. But some reason I had my friend film this in 22 seconds that are golden from our perspective, from our side. And you can see all the cameras. And then you see me going, thank you for coming to my wedding. 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 Coincidentally, mate, we didn't even know till last year, and it hit us like a ton of bricks. The only thing that was missing was us being in mainstream media, the wedding and the bride. And we realised it already happened on the 27th of July, 2022. And already moved the world's biggest army the world's ever seen, the Extinction Rebellion. And every declaration is made on my date of birth. And believe me, it's not by coincidence. It's by faith. We are the two witnesses. And there's not one pastor, preacher, Christian in the world that believes in it. Yet God developed most powerful confirmation we cannot lie. No one can lie. The documents we created, the most powerful influence on every declaration of my date of birth has been done not by me. I'm not in charge, but it all ends on my date of birth, every one of them. And it's not me in charge. It's not me making those declarations that's been declared worldwide. These are facts. Facts you cannot lie about. With the moons and the stars, and Daniel 9:27 in the middle of 7. Supernova the same day. And the end date is 2/27, the new climate clock, 27 September, 7-year lay. And then we go in a timeline of 7-fold wisdom knowledge. And also, most people go into 6 mass extinctions, stripping the 6th sense for the 6th time for a process. While we create heaven and earth, all right, with 7-fold wisdom knowledge, to be in the Christ image and never suffer the consequences ever again. And these are facts. When you cross over, you go in a new timeline of 7-fold wisdom and knowledge, and you will not have a death experience. I promise you.